Okay, let's talk about the last Incursions event. It was the first one we had in a long time. I'm sorry about getting the video and not out in more timely fashion, but I had some work stuff that was kept me pretty busy, so I wasn't able to make any videos until now. But anyway, let's talk about the last Incursions. Overall, I liked it. I'm going to kind of give you my feedback on it, and you can take it with a grain of salt from a player that this is one of my favorite events. It was before, and I'm glad it's back. To me, there's no better way to get tons of resources. And when they have mats or materials in the milestone events, you can usually get some stuff to level up ships or buildings. That's what I usually use this event for in the past, was help me level up. And it did not disappoint this time because I broke a milestone in my gameplay, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But overall, the incursion for our server, we won. This is the second time we've faced 74, and we won both times. But this was a total comeback victory. We were getting completely destroyed because early on, some big players on our server decided not to move and shield, and they cleaned those guys out. And as you can see, they're an older server than us, and there were some players that were bigger than any players that we had. So it was tough sledding watching these guys just get cleaned out, and there's not a whole lot you could do about it. And that's the way it started out, and it took us all night to slowly climb back, and then we got one big raid that put us over the top, and I was involved in it. And I'll talk about that a little bit later, too. The whole concept of one server being an invader and the other one being a defender for the whole incursions, I didn't like a lot. Especially if certain content creators get their way and you can't score on the other server. It'll make it really impossible for the defenders to raid, because anybody that's going to invade your server is going to be active. If you can find the unicorn guy that doesn't shield here, good luck with that. I spent most of my time on the other server. I switched back and forth, but most of my points came from their server and not mine. Most of my points came that way. And I would be totally against Rev and DJ's suggestion that no points count on the other server. That's just not going to work, because it puts the defenders in too big of a bind to keep up. If you can't raid and as high as rating scores in this game, you have no chance to win. There were promised that there was going to be better payouts. I didn't really see that. I know the overall payout was a little bit better, but come on. A 24-hour event, and that's all the rewards you get. Look at the bottom right-hand corner there. Come on. There needs to be a lot more rewards for this deal. I always like the milestone events in the incursions. Is one of the things that I use to build up my base, or maybe level up a ship if I needed mats for it. This is a good event for that. The fact that we only got a limited amount of officers in the event store that they had associated with it, I was disappointed on that. I was hoping for a whole lot more. But I like this incursions. I really missed it. Like I said, I look forward to do the incursions every month while we had it. I'm glad they fixed the problem with it. We can do it again. I hope they keep tweaking it, trying to make it more friendly towards the player, to give them incentives to play this, because, man, it is, to me, it's one of the better events that they do. Some of the things I didn't like about the event, they did another system, player versus player scoring event, which I hate those events, because any incursions I've been involved with, that system's always been a ghost town. It's really hard to find somebody in those systems to score to finish that milestone event. It really is. And player versus player point should count not only for the damage dealer and champion, it should count for the player versus player event as well in any system, anywhere, on either server, in my opinion, not just one system. Because, you got to get, somebody's got to be not a smart player to go in there and hang out. It's a bad mechanic. It doesn't work. They need to revise that to where on the player versus player points count anywhere. And that would make this event a lot more fun for me, at least, because I like the milestone events and I need the materials or whatever is sourced in those events. I like the fact that they had player shards in the milestone events. That was really helpful. I'm glad they did that. I think that's some feedback that some people have given them and they listened to. I'm going to give them a thumbs up on that, because that really helped me out. I think I was able to tear up my Strange New Worlds Leanne that way, because, man, she's like impossible to source. And the fact that they put her in there in a milestone event really helped out me, at least, So I was glad to see her there. The big story personally for me in the milestone, I got my first trillion resources raid and helped turn the tide, helped our server win. I had some other people that were involved too. We found a guy that had 10 trillion worth of resources, and between first it was like 8 of us, and then by the end of it there was probably 30 guys in there. We stripped that guy down to about 1.5 trillion before he finally came on and shielded. It turned the tide for the whole event for us, helped us win the event. For me, it not only won the Raider event for me, and remember, I'm in the top tier. And here's the points here. You can see they were way ahead on the Raider. When I think before this raid, I was doing good because I raided a lot of people on the other side. I probably had about 300 billion resources raided before that, because I was in 6th place before this raid, and it jumped me all the way to 1st by a decent margin over the guy that, because like I said, at the first of the event, several of our bigger players got raided because they didn't move and didn't shield. Some of them were a couple of MIA during the whole event and nearly got completely vaulted before somebody contacted them and they came on and shielded. But it made the event pretty hard to come back from, but we were able to do it. The prizes for this could be better. I needed the ROM shards because I'm going to tear him up here shortly. And so that really helped. And the subspace relays, that's a building that's hard to do anything with. So it was good to see those as well. But, man, there could have been a lot more payout for this. Definitely for what it took me to win this event. Will I say, was it worth it? No, not really. But it did help me move. Because right now, when I started this event, I was a level 51. But it gave me enough resources. I was able to go to 52. And I probably had some left over when I went up to 53 this weekend. So this event helped me a lot, like I said, for my resources, and helped me with my buildings and whatnot. And this is an event that I look forward to every month. And when we didn't have it, it made the game pretty boring for me. Because on my server, most of the people targets that I can hit are pretty poor. So it takes me 10 bases to raid before I can get anything significant. And being that this was an older server, and most of them were already in the 5-star economy, going over there, finding some juicy bases was pretty easy to do. And, I took well advantage of that. That's a good strategy to have, to spend as much as you can before the event starts, so you don't have a lot that somebody can raid in case something happens. You fall asleep playing, you lose internet, You know, a lot of things can happen. That will conclude this video. Until next time.